How could we ever know if God exists?
How can we know that God exists? Well, I suppose if he came to me, cap in hand, and admitted that maybe he messed up when he did all the Who-mans, I might be willing to grant that he gets to exists. But until he does that, he will have to remain as unreal as the day as some butthole decided to make him up. What do you mean that's not fair? Well, neither is all of you lot existing, so...
We can't see, hear, touch, smell, or taste him.
All true, and honestly, I don't even know what God is supposed to taste like. I mean, imagine you just sat there and you taste God. Would you know what had happened? And I suppose it would depend on what part he had stuck in your mouth. I mean, if you got a strong, salty taste, well, it would have to be... No, don't be gross. I mean, like his eyeball or something. But yeah, there is no repeatable sense data to demonstrate God. Same as, things that don't exist. If only we could figure out the correlation between those two things.
We can't weigh him like we can a 5-pound bag of potatoes.
Which suggests that we could weigh him if he were a 6-pound bag of potatoes. Also, at least the potatoes, do things. In fact, the potatoes at least contribute to many of the things that religion would claim is actually God's doing. I mean, they keep people alive, they form the building blocks of other people, so could contribute to making babies. Hell, they can even produce electricity, so effectively they have good old lightning powers. And all of that is achieved while also fucking existing. That is potato 4, God nil.
We can't put God under an electron microscope to prove what he looks like on an atomic level.
I mean, I tried, but he just started getting pissy with me. So sick. Stop crushing me down into a slide. Sick. I don't like being bombarded with electrons. Sick. When's it my go on the whiskey? Shut up, God. I'm trying to science.
So how can we know that God exists?
Okay, I thought you misspoke before, but it's actually how you meant to say that. It's exists. There is an S on the end when you are talking about something that is currently doing an existence. Otherwise, it's like, did he exist or could he exist? But we can prove he exists, or do we know if he exists? God damn. Shocking that a creationist wouldn't know how to letters.
We freely admit that belief in God is not the result of literally seeing God's spirit.
Or hearing, or touching, or smelling, or tasting it, or any part of it. I mean, surely God, if he's the all-power boy you claim he is, he would also be able to inhabit a physical form if he so chooses. Because, he apparently did. And yet, that version of him didn't leave behind any evidence of being a divine guy either, for some reason. Probably because something faith.
Or touching his actual essence.
Don't be touching his essence now, you will get completely covered in mana, and that shit is just impossible to get out of your clothes, hair, and nostrils. What you want to do is just poke at his essence from a distance, preferably with a pointy stick, and just hope that it doesn't go off.
What we have at our fingertips, however, is a mountain of irrefutable, indirect...
Irrefutable, indirect. Christ, this is going to go somewhere just absolutely brilliant, don't you?
Credible evidence that testifies on God's behalf.
You just said you don't. There's nothing about him that can be tested. And that includes things that a thing that he could leave behind and so should be testable, but he doesn't and can't because he doesn't interact with our universe apparently. You know, how like a thing that doesn't real can't interact with the universe and also leaves nothing for you to test. Because they aren't real, damn it.
First, consider the fact that matter demands a maker.
Nope, demands my ass. All matter demands is that it exists as we understand it. It could have come from anywhere. It could have always existed. It could have formed from some other type of stuff. It could have even, and I know your lot hate this one, which is ironic because it's literally what you believe, it could have come from nothing. It's just your nothing is with extra pointless steps. No, there's no demand for a maker. That's just the answer that you like. That's it. Fuck. We haven't seen anything that produces matter out of thin air. So to conclude that one exists is actually based on nothing.
A study of the material universe reveals that every physical effect must have an adequate cause that came before it or was simultaneous to it.
Okay, but that wouldn't actually mean that something that maybe existed before this universe would have to follow the rules within this universe. Also, that greater than thing, yeah, no, things that are small could cause massive things. I mean, just check out what my penis can do to something ever so slightly bigger than it. But even if it does work the way that you say it does, that doesn't actually mean that whatever the cause was had to be anything even remotely resembling a god. And certainly not anything remotely like your god. But that's mostly because your god is fucking stupid.
The U.S. flag that stood tall on the surface of the moon in 1969 was neither eternal nor without a cause. Its existence on the moon demands a sufficient cause.
Seriously, the moon flag is what you're going with. I mean, sure, that thing certainly required other things to cause it to exist, to be there. But again, that's within the rules of our universe. Until you can show how things work beyond it, you can't compare anything to it. Also, using the space program just comes off as, I don't know. Seriously, I doubt that creation science had anything to do with getting there. And if anything, only hindered that progress. At no point did they get any of their science or calculations from the fucking Bible.
Some leading atheists contend that nothing gave rise to the universe.
Leading atheists is such a meaningless thing to say, as if there are actual leaders that everyone agrees are the important atheist guy. I mean, if that were true, everyone would be subscribed to my extremely important ass, and yet, look at that tiny, tiny number. Reminds me of the Statue of Liberty, it's just that small, and really should be bigger, like my penis.
But the fact is, as renowned atheist Richard Dawkins admitted, common sense doesn't allow you to get something from nothing.
Okay, so I have absolutely no idea what the context of that phrase is, and I also don't really give a shit what the man says, because he certainly isn't my leader by any stretch of the imagination. But even at a glance, and due to Creaty Boy propensity for cherry picking, one can come to the reasonable conclusion that, sure, common sense says that, but common sense says a lot of things that science then comes along and says is completely wrong. Common sense said so many things over the history of mankind that we now know to be utter nonsense. So one can assume, if he did say that, apropos of nothing, that he may well have been trying to make that exact point. That just perhaps we might need a little bit more than common sense to know where the everything came from.
At one time in the past, the material universe did not exist. Then at some point, it came into existence.
Came.
But since matter is not eternal, and it cannot create itself from nothing, then something outside of the material universe must have brought it into existence.
Matter is not eternal. How do you know that? It cannot create itself from nothing. Again, how do you know that? Something outside of the material universe must. I'm not even going to finish that one, since I know for a fact you absolutely don't know that. You know, Nobel Prize having motherfucker. All of these are things that you just don't know. And I don't know either. But that's because we don't know doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want and it gets to be true. That's not how the anything works, my dude.
Indeed, the very existence of matter demands a maker.
Oh, I swear these mother hubbards take the adage, repeat a lie enough time and it gets to be true, far too literally. It doesn't actually make it true. It just means that the uncritical in the world, of which there are far too fucking many, will just start to believe, because what else are they going to do? Figure out how it's wrong? Because that's the other thing that you take advantage of. A lie will have run around the world while the truth is still getting its shoes on. All of these ideas are things you take advantage of instead of, actually being accurate. Or, God, literally forbid, you admit that you just don't know something.
Second, life demands a life giver.
I thought you were going to say lifer there. And no, it fucking doesn't. Life demands. Life doesn't exist. Other than that, you definitely have no idea. I mean, you want people to think that this is the same deal as the before 4 universe times, but that's just not the case. Fact is, there's a real good chance that we will figure out how life could come from non-living stuff eventually. Because life happened within the universe, meaning that if it's natural, and notice the staggering lack of evidence for the supernatural cough, then we will more than likely be able to figure it out. But fuck, even if we don't, that doesn't mean that God did it.
Life doesn't pop into existence from nothing. Neither the puppy at the pound nor the bacteria on the doorknob spontaneously generated.
Oh, fuck off. If you had been around whenever 100 years ago, you would definitely have believed it did. What you're doing right now is acting like science that was discovered by people who actually care about reality and using it as an excuse to shit talk about science that you don't like. But the thing is, it's also being done by people who care about figuring out reality, and that's your actual problem. Because when they do, just like this, you'll have to reconfigure your worldview to pretend that it was always part of it. And it'll probably be like, so God made it so that life formed this way from non-life, when frankly he didn't need to do shit because he didn't even have to bother to exist.
Every scientist, whether theist or atheist, knows this observation to be true.
See, now you're just making stuff up. I mean, a cursory glance at internet.com will show you that this is an out-and-out fabrication. Either that, or you are like Uno reversing all of the scientists that disagree with you. And it's not that you're a lying piece of shit, it's that they all won't admit the truth. They all secretly believe in Lifeismo, the great life giver, went around lifing all over the place.
In the material universe, life arises from previously existing life of its own kind.
Oh, are we just going to chuck in some anti-evolution talking points, are we? Unsurprising. Also, but then humans and animals and all that shit aren't God, so God couldn't have made them. Damn it, seconds after you say something, it immediately doesn't stand up to any scrutiny whatsoever. What a shonker.
Life cannot spontaneously generate from non-living chemicals. Thus, a supernatural, intelligent mind must have created living things.
Even if what you said first was even remotely demonstrable, the conclusion, thus supernatural intelligence must do, what are you even talking about? Why does it have to be supernatural? Why does it have to be what we think of as intelligence? What if it's just some life-pooping machine that mindlessly travels the stars, dumping life onto whatever it encounters for no reason? There are so many other explanations that jumping to, thus I must be right about the nonsense I believe, is just unbelievable intellectual laziness, if not outright intellectual dishonesty. Come on, man.
If in nature life always arises from pre-existing life, how did the first physical life come into being?
I think you are confusing biogenesis with abiogenesis. The fact that you can see biogenesis happening, that is life from life, that doesn't magically preclude life from non-life happening, especially when we today sit in a world that is likely so different from the time when life could have formed, that more than likely it simply wouldn't happen today, at least not out in the wild.
Did it somehow break the most fundamental law of biology, the law of biogenesis, and arise from non-life?
The law of biogenesis does not address the origins of life, so it being broken by a different field of study would be fine. Just because, again, life as we currently know it comes from other life does not mean that it couldn't. Also, there are plenty of scientific ideas that have been fundamentally changed when we discover new information. That's science. It should change when we learn more. You are confusing it with the Bible that's not allowed to change even when it's constantly proven wrong.
Or is there another possibility?
That you are an idiot? No, it couldn't be that. You are far too smart to be the big dumb.
Dr. Anthony Flew, who for the second half of the 20th century was one of the world's leading atheistic thinkers.
Never heard of him, and literally irrelevant. It's only your lot who care about top this and that. We only care about what actual science says. You know, because being factually accurate is more important than touting whatever it is my book says.
Was forced in the end to conclude the only satisfactory explanation for the origin of such indirected, self-replicating life as we see on Earth is an infinitely intelligent mind.
Okay, assuming that that isn't some insane cherry pick, who gives a shit what he says? I disagree. I think that's not a conclusion that is supported by any kind of evidence. And that just because some atheist thinker maybe thinks that, and again, one that I haven't even heard of, the fact that he says something, it doesn't suddenly become my opinion. Do yours change because some asshole comes out of the woodwork and says something stupid? Well, I guess in your case, it would have to be something smart for you to disagree with it, so never mind.
Third, design demands a designer. Everyday observation reveals and confirms the obvious fact that complex functional design demands a designer.
And everyday observations show that things that were formed in nature often have such glaring faults in them that the idea that anyone designed them is completely ludicrous. Therefore, undesigned things require an undesigner. Look, it's his stupid way of phrasing things. Don't blame me if it sounds really, really dumb.
Cars and computers, pianos and projectors all require engineers, technicians, and tuners for them to exist and function properly.
Yeah, and you know those people don't add random shit in a way that makes zero sense and make those things only just about function rather than, well, otherwise they tend to get fired and certainly aren't thought of as perfect omniscient beings who can do no wrong. That's for damn sure.
But what about the universe as a whole? No honest, informed person can rationally deny the fact that the universe is extremely fine-tuned and functionally complex.
I can deny it's finely tuned, and I can even say it kinda isn't all that complex. Not in the broad strokes. It's just a bunch of shit spinning around other shit. The universe is a spirograph, that's about it. Yeah, other things in it are complex, but they're kinda their own things doing their own shit. But hey, maybe I'm just a big dumb. I mean, one of us keeps saying stupid shit, so maybe I'm just confused.
From the Earth's precise orbit around the sun, to a shorebird's 15,000-mile yearly migration pattern, to the amazing digestive system of the human body, there are literally millions of examples of fine-tuned design in nature.
Bringing up humans for fine-tuned design. Nope, just absolutely fucking no, mate, not even.
Anything in the physical universe that exhibits complex functional design demands an intelligent designer.
Okay, so none of it. Cool.
Since the universe exhibits complex functional design, the universe must have a designer.
Only in upside down land, mate, and I'm pretty sure there are kangaroos there, so I might consider avoiding it at all costs. Those massive dude bros will fuck you up.
Finally, consider the fact that intelligence demands an intelligent creator.
And there I thought it would be an intelligencer, and no, it really doesn't. Intelligence is just an emergent property when you get a bunch of neurons together. That doesn't appear to be needing of intelligence at all. In fact, unless you can show where intelligence does require that, you're just talking out of your ass, mate.
The reason that humans in the 21st century are intelligent is because our ancestors were intelligent.
No, what? That's not what? Humans being intelligent because older humans are intelligent is nothing. Intelligence developed because of evolution. God damn it, why do you keep making these nonsensical leaps in frankly faulty logic? Alright, creationist, if you didn't have faulty logic, you wouldn't have any logic at all.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the